Imagine walking into a pharmacy, prescription in hand, and discovering the medicine you need to survive costs more than your rent. This drug, something that could save your life, costs $2 to produce. Yet the price tag reads $500, $1,000, sometimes even $2,000. You might think this is fraud, criminal greed, or an outrageous scam, but here's the twist. It's completely legal. In fact, the law in many countries, especially the United States, allows it. And the question that burns is this: how did we reach a point where staying alive feels like paying a ransom? This isn't just a story about money. It's a story about moral conflict, human suffering, and the invisible forces shaping our health. Today, we are exploring the world of Big Pharma, the legal frameworks that let it operate like a mafia, and the ways they fix prices to maximize profit, all while keeping it entirely above board. The production versus price gap. The first thing to understand is this: the cost of making a drug is often tiny compared to its retail price. Manufacturing a life-saving pill might cost $2, but when it hits the pharmacy shelf, the number skyrockets into the hundreds, sometimes thousands. Why such a gap? A part of the answer lies in research and development, or R&D, as the industry likes to call it. Pharmaceutical companies claim that these sky-high prices are necessary to fund the next breakthrough drug, and there is truth to this. Developing new treatments is expensive, often taking over a decade with billions invested in clinical trials. But here's the catch. Studies repeatedly show that the vast majority of R&D costs are recouped in the first few years of a drug's release. After that, profit margins explode, yet prices rarely drop. Instead, companies engage in tactics that extend their monopoly, ensuring the patent cliff is postponed and the cash keeps flowing. This is where the legal magic begins. Patents, the weaponized monopoly. Patents are meant to encourage innovation. If you invent something, the law protects you, giving you a temporary monopoly to profit from your creation. That sounds fair, until you realize how Big Pharma weaponizes this system. Some companies file patents, not just for the drug itself, but for minor tweaks, a new coating, a different dosage, or even a pill color. These evergreening strategies extend exclusivity far beyond the original patent, legally blocking cheaper generics from entering the market. Take one high-profile example: a drug that was originally patented decades ago, saving countless lives. Instead of letting generics compete, the company repeatedly modified small details and obtained new patents. The result? Prices remained sky-high, and consumers had no alternative. Legally, it's allowed. Morally, it feels like a hostage situation. The role of pharmacy benefit managers. Another invisible force in this system is the pharmacy benefit manager, or PBM. Think of them as middlemen between insurers, pharmacies, and drug makers. Their stated role is to negotiate lower prices for consumers. Sounds like a good thing, right? Here's the irony. PBMs often negotiate discounts that never reach patients. Rebates and secret deals between PBMs and drug companies can actually incentivize higher list prices. The higher the official cost of a drug, the larger the rebate PBMs can extract. Consumers, however, pay the inflated amount at the pharmacy counter. In other words, the very system designed to reduce costs often inflates them. It's a legal feedback loop that benefits middlemen and manufacturers while patients shoulder the burden. Price fixing in plain sight. Price fixing might sound like an underground crime. The truth is that some forms of it exist in the open, and courts rarely intervene. Companies sometimes engage in pay-for-delay deals, paying potential generic competitors to postpone their market entry. Imagine this: a new company develops a cheaper version of a life-saving drug. Instead of competing, the original manufacturer writes them a check to sit on the sidelines. Legally, this is often allowed. Morally, it's tantamount to holding the sick hostage while profits accumulate. Investigations have revealed hundreds of millions in settlements and fines, but rarely do executives face personal consequences. The system is designed to protect shareholders, not patients. The choice between money or life. At the heart of this system lies a brutal moral dilemma. Consumers are forced to choose between financial survival and physical survival. For families, this might mean skipping rent to afford insulin. For elderly patients, it could mean rationing medication to make it last a month longer. And for many, it's the agonizing calculation. Can I buy the pill that keeps me alive, or do I pay for other essentials? This is where the tension becomes personal. Big Pharma operates in a world governed by profits, patents, and legal loopholes, while the individual suffers in silence. The law allows it. Public outrage exists, yet systemic change is painfully slow. International price disparities. Interestingly, this isn't a global norm. Governments actively regulate drug prices. Canada, Germany, and the UK negotiate costs before drugs hit the market, often paying a fraction of what Americans do for the same treatment. So why the difference? In the US, pharmaceutical companies wield enormous political influence. Lobbying, campaign contributions, and revolving door policies between regulators and the industry ensure minimal price oversight. It's legal influence, a kind of corporate leverage that keeps domestic prices sky high. The role of insurance. Insurance is supposed to protect patients from financial ruin, but in the world of Big Pharma, it often masks the pain rather than eliminating it. Co-pays, deductibles, and coverage limits mean that even insured patients can face devastating bills. Insurance companies often pass costs directly back to consumers through higher premiums. The sick are not only paying for their treatment, they are subsidizing the system that keeps prices inflated, the media, and public perception. You might think exposure would change things. Headlines scream about skyrocketing insulin prices or the $10,000 treatment for hepatitis. But the public often sees these stories as isolated cases, not systemic issues. The narrative is fragmented, complex, and easy to dismiss. Big Pharma invests heavily in public relations and lobbying. They frame the story as innovation costs, breakthrough research, and moral duty to shareholders. And because the law backs them, outrage rarely translates into meaningful change. Attempts at reform. There have been attempts to push back. Senators propose legislation, activists launch campaigns, and some states try to cap prices. Some companies voluntarily reduce prices under pressure. What this teaches us. The lesson here is unsettling. Legality does not equal morality. Systems designed to encourage innovation can be exploited for extreme profit, often at the expense of human life. It also shows how intertwined economics, law, and health have become. To survive, financially or medically, individuals must navigate a web that was never designed with them in mind. It's a cautionary tale of legal loopholes, corporate strategy, and moral compromise. It also highlights the potential for awareness to drive change. Knowing how this system works, understanding the mechanisms of patents, rebates, and price manipulation allows us to advocate smarter, push harder, and demand accountability. Every time you see a $500 pill, remember the layers beneath that number. The patents, the middlemen, the legal loopholes, and the lobbying. Understand that the choice between money and life is not an accident. It is a feature of a system that prioritizes profit over humanity. Big Pharma operates like a mafia, but a legal one. And until we confront the structures that allow it, millions of patients will continue to pay the price, literally and figuratively. If this story shocked you, you're not alone. The more people understand how legal systems can mask moral injustice, the more pressure we can put on those in power. Knowledge is the first step toward change. Subscribe now for more deep dives into the hidden structures shaping our lives, from money and medicine to technology and power. Because the world is complex, but understanding it is the first step toward reclaiming control.